It all started on Facebook, just by one post. A pretty popular page called That Girl. As an avid Facebooker, I loved anything that would make an experience less mundane. So I liked plenty of strange pages like hers. Gary motherfucking Oak, hipster Link Vegeta's mustache, and so on. That girl, better known by her fans as Kitty, which I'll be now calling her for the remainder of the tale, posted a very strange update, and a one that was no more than Judith Barsi, the voice of Ducky in The Land Before Time, was shot and killed by her father at the age of 10. The next post simply said this: I'm abandoning this page for a while, personal issues, see you on the flip side. Very unlike Kitty, to say the least, but this piqued my curiosity. As an adventurous person, I felt the need to look into it. I made my way to my aunt's house that weekend, hoping to ask my older cousin Seth if he knew about the whole ordeal of Judith. He was a huge fan of the Land Before Time movies, and I was told that they used to make him cry. He would never admit it though. I walked home. The smell of cigarettes and weed assailed in my nostrils, made me slightly lightheaded. Seth's friends were all there, like usual, and I knew I'd never get any answers out of him if he had company. Hey, Seth, I called out to him. What are you guys up to? Beer pong, want to join? Seth inquired, as I had more pressing issues to discuss with him. I politely declined and asked him if I could speak to him alone, knowing not to embarrass him in front of his friends. Alone? Sure. Just let me go grab a smoke, then we can head outside. I grabbed one too, and stood in the bitter winter chill from him. So, what'd you need? This may be a bit awkward, but... You prego? I'll kill someone. No, Seth. I sighed. No, it's not that. Still a virgin. I inhaled the cancerous smoke and began again. Do you know anything about that little girl that was in the Land Before Time movies? Judith Barsi, I think? His face grew pale. No, he said sternly. Seth, I need to know, I snapped. It's for a school project and I... Don't fucking lie, Jess. Seth, I don't frickin' know anything about it. Seth was less pale and more flustered. His eyes looked deranged, like he had witnessed something horrible and transpire. He had calmed down for a moment after I had stared at him, unfazed by his unnecessary rage. I have an old copy of the movie in my chest downstairs. Don't talk about it anymore. See it for yourself. He threw his smoke into the snow. But believe me, you won't like it. I followed his lead and threw my half-smoked cigarette into the ground. What a waste, I thought. I followed Steph into the dark depths of the basement, where his room was located, and shuffled into it. It was full of horror movie memorabilia, promised to be mine when he grows out of it. Here in that chest, if you think you have the guts to watch the movie, then you should dig it out fine, he said, left the room, and locked the door. Typical. Always trying to scare me. Who the hell does he think he is? Freddy Krueger? Ugh. My mind and thoughts were racing. He was much like Jigsaw in one respect, intelligent enough to play games with my mind and make me search for things that were in plain sight. I dug into the closet, coming across the Chucky doll. I froze. Seth had tied me to chairs when I was young and forced me to watch Child's Play. Remembering the things that I longed to forget, I started to well up, knowing that the worst was probably over. But man, I was wrong. Seth was plenty of other things to screw with me, like zombie-like fox limbs and notes that read cryptic messages. No, Jess, don't do this to yourself. Stop this now. Just come upstairs and drink with us. Forget about Judith. Forget it. Wait, I thought Seth was in my sight the whole time we were down there, and there was no way he would know if I had come around looking for the information about Judith, or what I know about her, and more importantly, why would he lock the door? I shuffled through the wreckage of his horror-fast chest and finally found the tape, an unaffected copy. Seth! I called. Seth, I found it! I heard him sniffle. Seth, can I please go? Watch it. What? Watch the frickin' movie, Jess. Seth, let's just have another smoke and go watch it at my house. A few minutes passed in silence until the door unlocked, making me jump, and slowly opened. Seth, I thought that maybe if I'd have some few tricks by now, acting unfazed as the new development. I walked out of the door, expecting Seth to try and scare me, but there was no one. He's probably hiding somewhere else. I thought I'd try to reason with myself. There is just no way. I walked up the stairs of the house, which had always frightened me. I felt cold. Small hand touched my arm. Watch the movie, Jess, it whispers. You know you want to. Seth, you're a... dude. Dude, I called him. I'm going home, I said, as I peeked my head around the stairs to see if anyone was there. They were all there, including Seth. Find that movie? Fine, just fine, thanks. Don't lock the door on me anymore. It's childish. Jess, I didn't lock the door. He then went pale again. I didn't even shut the door. I left you to your own devices and we went upstairs. His friends were all laughing. You trying to pull something on me? No. My face was probably equally as pale, sweat a little in fear and distress. Seth, can you please sleep over at my house tonight? His friends, drunk and laughed, find this situation hilarious and were laughing hysterically. Seth did nothing but nod. You could finish the game, then we can leave. I clutched the VHS in my sweaty palms. Just hurry, I want to go home. Seth nodded again. I sat in the living room, which was simply a large patch of carpet, meant to separate the dining area and the living room. On the couch, my Aunt Muriel sat next to me, very drunk and very high. You're not going to the party, Jess? What the hell? This is a party house. I looked at her with pleading eyes. I just wanted to watch the tape and get it over with. I thought an excuse, seeing that she loved drinking, getting stoned, and other things that matter. Nah, not tonight. I have a project due soon and I just want to get home. So just go. Can't. Seth is going to help me. What? He don't know dot diddly squat. Company. I was getting nervous and sweaty again. Aunt Muriel backed off considerably and went back to the party. Listening all to the comfortable sounds of chatter and laughter was filling the voids of my mind. I was growing more and more comfortable when beginning to forget about the tape and whatever continence it had. I slipped into sleep, which I thought was odd. I'm insomniac and chronic insomniac. I hardly ever slept. That moment short, Seth woke me up moments later, pretty drunk and smiley. You ready to go? He reached for a beer. Come on, let's bounce. I can go by myself if you're too drunk. Kay, love you. He hugged me. It smelled like brewery. I was unhappy, but lived in a tiny bedroom apartment to myself. There wasn't going to be anyone with me, and that's what Seth said to me. I was starting to feel a little more uneasy, like this tape had some sort of mood-changing alignment to it. I lit a smoke and was joined by my younger cousin, Christine. She was stoned. Hey, she breathed. Where are you off to? She then took a hit from her joint. Home, I inhaled the smoke and then exhaled. Seth's an ass, dude. He said he wanted to watch his movie with me, then totally go too drunk to go. That's just Seth, Jess. She looked at me. Call Jonesy or Damien. I don't need a man, Chris. Then call Vivian. Viv? Yeah, maybe. Problem solved. She crushed a joint on the coffee table, ignoring the ashtray I was using. Seth told me about the movie when we were younger, she giggled. He must have been a messed up dude. Then something struck me. I never told Chris about the movie I was taking home. Tell me, how did you know what movie I had in my hands? She went pale and nervously laughed. That's the case, Jessica. It's not the case. It hasn't been the case for years. The label, I mean. I looked at the VHS, but the label was facing the ground, buried into my knees. I didn't want to think about what Chris had something to do with the tape, so I pushed the idea off the back of my head. I stood up and grabbed my phone out of my pocket, seeing a text from Vivian. Hey, coming over, bring you pizza, see you at 6. It was nearly 5, so I went to my car, only to see Chris and Seth standing in front of it. Blinked once and they were gone. Shaken up, I got in my car and started her up. My iPod was plugged in, and the abrupt sound of Skrillex made me jump. I tried to forget what was going on and call Viv. Hello? She answered after 2 rings. Viv, I need you to come over now. Sure, whatever. Hey, happy birthday, by the way. I'd completely forgotten. I answered honestly. I didn't. I can't take the car, so would you come and get me? Not an issue. Will you stay on the line with me? Some freaky shit is happening. Sure, freaky shit? Like what? I saw Chris and Seth's faces in the windows, staring and motionless. I'll tell you when I get home. I began driving, making small talk about the school and how some shitty our teachers were. I started talking about Damien. I gushed out about his sweet, sensible attitude towards me. Viv started talking about how she wished that she would find a guy like Damien and how much she missed her previous boyfriend Eric. I finally got to her home and was sat outside. She hung up, walked out into the beautiful 5-bedroom home, and got into my car. Finally, she breathed, and I got you a present. She handed me a small box tied with the red ribbon and white wrapping paper. I tucked in my glove compartment and promised to open it later. Then I drove it off. Viv started staring at me impatiently. So what kind of freaky shit? Later. Why? I'm not sure if we're in the clear. I checked my phone, but all there was a background was a picture of me and Nightcrawler from the X-Men Evolution I've drawn. We're going to be watching a movie. Cool, what movie? The Land Before Time. That seems a bit odd for you. Why not Hellboy or Pan's Labyrinth? I mean, it's your birthday, so whatever, but... I cut her off. The freaky shit revolves around the tape. I lit a cigarette, shaking. Viv just took her head in disapproval. You know that girl? Kitty, yeah. She said on her page that Judith Barsi, the voice of Ducky in this movie, was killed by her dad when she was 10. I inhaled and rolled down the window. Then she abandoned the page. I'm thinking permanently. Okay, so what does that have to do with the movie now? Just listen, I snapped. Kitty abandoned the page just because that's where I got curious. I knew my cousin liked the movie as a kid, but he really got upset when I asked, and he told me to watch it for myself. Then he stared at me as I drove to come and get you. He looked just like Jeff the Killer from that Creepypasta. So he does have the nose? She joked. I do get that it's freaking you out, but don't you think that maybe you're reading too many of those stupid stories? I mean, none of them are real. That's not entirely true. SmileDog.jpg is real. How would you know? Let's not argue about this one. At this point, we pulled into my parking lot. Let's just see what made Seth cry, all because of that time ago. I got out of my car and swore I could see Seth's face in the window again. Smiling, I pushed it aside. I'm calling Damien. I need a man so to kick Seth's stupid ass for trying to scare me. What do you mean? Vivian inquired. Seth was just at the window again. He must have left after I did. After reasoning myself, I pulled out my cell phone, but it didn't have a signal. Fuck, no signal. I looked up at the window. He wasn't there anymore. Let's just go inside. I unlocked the main floor and then made my way to my apartment. I was nervous, but I unlocked the door, closed my eyes, and turned on the lights. Surprise! A chorus of people chanted. Seth, Christine, Damien, Jonesy, and countless others. Viv had only joined in the chorus, and the initial shock made me jump. Laughter assured that I felt safe again. However, I blinked and they were gone. The room was simply black, and all I heard were whispers. Watch, watch, watch. I shook my head and turned around. The only thing that was visible were the black abyss of the TV and VCR. The black tape was still being clutched in my terrified hands. Sweat was gathering my forehead as I uttered in terror. I didn't want to do this. I didn't have to watch it. But I was being pushed by somehow getting closer and closer to the VCR until I was right in front of it. The same whispers invaded my mind as I put the tape in. All it started there. Everything was normal for the first half hour from what I can assume. After that, whenever Ducky talked, it flashed to between her face and Judith's. That only continued for a while, but there was no static, just Judith's face with scarlet background that was murder to the eyes. When the movie ended, there were no credits. Instead, it was a graphic video of Judy and her mother's murder. It was crudely videotaped and shaky. I watched it all unravel. I watched her be dragged by her luscious golden locks to the kitchen, where her father beat her and spewed venomous words at her. Bitch, you don't even know what it's like to work all you got. He slammed her to the walls, and she cried softly, trying to keep her composure. Scream, goddammit! She took her head. She tried to carried her to the room, while still spewing venom. He pulled out a gun from his waistband and shot her right in the head. I tried to look away, but I heard the voice. The voice sounded like Judith's father, screamed by the ear, "Watch! Watch! Fucking watch!" I couldn't tell what he was saying was more horrifying, the screaming in my ear or the sight of Judith's limp body being covered in gasoline and blankets. I was in total shock. I didn't even know what to do. I wanted it to end, but it wouldn't. It just wouldn't. As if the shock wore off, I began to cry, screaming, anything to drown out what I was seeing. Nothing worked. Next was Judith's mother. She heard the gunshot and went into the room. "Joseph, what are you doing?" she asked him. "I heard a noise. What's going on?" "Nothing," he said, hiding the gun. "Come here." He then led her out to the hall, her face filled with worry. He headlocked her and put the gun to her temple. "I'm sorry," he said, emotionless. The shot rang out from my ears. I saw her head explode on impact. I threw up at this point. The pure carnage of it was just enough to make any human being sick, let alone 17-year-old girl. I was simply sitting there in front of the television. The end was growing closer, and he covered for their bodies with gasoline and set them on fire. The camera now showed them to the garage, where he sighed and shot himself. The camera showed a picture of Judith and her mother burning. The flesh was melting from their faces. I closed my eyes and awoke to the chair, my friends and family surrounding me. Everyone was asking if I was okay. "You've been in comatose for an hour and a half now." My mother was the one to speak. "I was about to take you to the hospital, but..." Seth cut her off. "You're awake now. That's all that matters." This was not the original Seth that had spoken earlier today. Everyone had faces painted with worry. Christine was not the same either. I spoke with her and she had claimed to have not been there for weeks. And Seth claimed that I hadn't showed up that day. Vivian says I hadn't picked her up and that her car was in the parking lot. With everyone else's, suddenly something struck me. That package I had thought Vivian had given to me. What was inside of it? From the lack of better judgment, I went to check the package that was in my glove box. It was beautifully wrapped, and I felt bad for opening it. Inside was a sweet picture of Judith, melting with her mother. I know why Kitty abandoned the page. That is, if she had experienced the same things I did. I don't even know what happened, and I don't want to know. I want to forget, but those goddamn whispers come back sometimes. How do you feel now, knowing the truth?
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.